Simon, it's really nice to have you on here, man. You've been doing a lot of things lately, and it's glad to finally have you on here. So, how would you first introduce yourself for someone who may not know you?
The guy that did the thing. I feel like that's the easiest way to put it. It's the guy
Yeah.
that's like the guy that is starting the movement to beat McDonald's.
Mm,
The guy that lost an entire person's weight in
yeah.
a year and went on to become a
Yeah.
bodybuilding winner.
Literally my weight right now. Holy shit, man. We're gonna
Yeah.
get into that all of that later, but I wanted to ask you let's start from the beginning. What was your childhood like as a whole?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, it's like I never really. I mean, I feel like I always used food as some sort of coping. So like this been present in my entire life, like from when I was a kid to until very recently, I would say. And I mean, obviously, like in school, being the fat kid in elementary school and high school,
Mm.
like we can all agree that that's not the most pleasant of experiences. So that's why, like, the second I got the opportunity to like fuck off out of my hometown, it was the first thing I decided to do.
Were you active as a kid? That's like an obvious question, but I wanted to ask that anyways.
Actually, it's not because
Mm,
I was very active as a kid. Actually,
really?
I was always like outside playing or fucking running through the woods or something like that. Or I played badminton a lot in school and all this other stuff. I was actually very active. It's just you can't out train a shit diet, you
Oh
know.
yeah, I
So
used to think that.
yeah, so a couple too many bagels and cafeteria cookies later, and
Mm.
all that activity was for nothing. Which, if you look at it, really, it kind of makes sense considering how, like, just like the general musculature that I have,
Mm,
that I had under all the fat. That, like, you don't
yeah.
get that from, like, there's some like obese people that when they lose the weight, they don't have a lot of muscle underneath because
Mm,
they lived a mostly sedentary life. But I was always active. I was
yeah.
always doing something. I started weightlifting fairly young, and I
Mm,
just ate like crap. So I built a
mm,
lot of muscle. I just got fat.
mm. So what did you want to do as a kid? Like, did you ever imagine you being a bodybuilder? Did you imagine that as a kid?
Yes and no. I've been
Mm,
like, I feel like when I was a kid, but I like, I don't know why, but I just wanted to join the military. That was like the one thing that I was like,
mm,
oh, that seems like easy solution, and then cool. But it's like I remember I saw a Flex mag of Phil Heath on the cover in high school,
mm.
and I was like, damn, one day. I never thought bodybuilding would be the career choice. I just thought like I would love to look like a brick shithouse like Phil Heath one day. You know what I mean?
When did you first get into the gym? When did you start like weightlifting in general?
So I would actually be first year of college. Yeah, first year of college
Mm,
is when everything started. I met my training partner, who is now like also a very decorated athlete. Um, so my first training partner ever was Max Boudreau, who got third place at World's Strongest Man in I want to say 2021 or something like that, or it was 2018. I don't know. He's a like
mm,
world level strongman athlete. He's competing at the Arnold's in a few weeks, and I get to go see him then. So it's like I feel like I've been surrounded by very high tier athletes from the second I started weightlifting. Sorry about
mm.
all the things, and that must have played some sort of factor into it. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, you were doing powerlifting or strongman or something like that, right? When you started first.
So it was always like it was very bodybuilding centric, but I was just
Mm.
lifting really heavy, very young. Like the first time I ever hit a bench press, I hit 315.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, the first time. Like, yeah.
Holy shit.
But I mean, I have like relatively and like genetically, I'm very blessed for bench pressing because I have a
Mm.
very large rib cage and I have a very short arms, so my range of
Mm.
motion is very little.
This is an off-topic question, but what was the most you ever benched?
I was 495. I never quite
495.
hit the actual 500 mark, but I did hit the 5 plates per side.
Holy, holy shit, that's a whole lot.
I don't have a video of it or anything, so it's probably horrible form.
Mm.
And like I was probably like my butt was coming off the bench or something like that. But hey, we hit it. That's
Uh,
all that matters.
so what was the heaviest you ever been?
So that would have been 372 pounds, which would have been probably around. Oh god, that would have been a few weeks. Actually, no, sorry, yeah. I literally just did a video on that, and I found the dates for everything. That would have been 2 weeks before I started my transformation.
Yeah, the
or 2 or 3 weeks. I don't
transformation.
know,
Yeah,
something like that.
transformation was
Yeah.
crazy. Now you've talked about that many times. I don't want to go over something that you've talked about 1,000 times, but I do want to ask you one thing. What advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of the transformation if you could go back and tell him something?
Nothing.
Really?
I would change. I would change nothing. I it's I really believe in the whole everything happens for a reason. You know, and it's like what was it? I said something on the stage at Summer Shredding, which was like, everybody wants to tell people how to lose the weight, but they've never had to do it themselves. Now, of course, now I've done it, so it's a little bit easier to give advice to people.
Yeah.
But it's everything happened the way that it did because of everything that happened the way that it did. It's like you don't play with like it's like the whole concept of like going back in time and the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Right.
Holy
I would
shit.
change nothing.
So, man, that whole process must have been. What was like? Which month was by, or like approximately, like when was it like the toughest? When you like maybe you wanted to quit, if you at any point wanted to quit at all, or if it got like the most difficult. Was it the most difficult at the beginning, or did it get more difficult over time?
That's a really good question, actually. I would think that the start was pretty easy. Because, like, I mean, when you're morbidly obese in any sense of the word, you lose a lot of weight really quickly at first, just due to water weight, inflammation dropping. Like, if a person that's morbidly obese goes from Coke to Diet Coke, that makes a very large difference. You know what I mean? So, like, because I went fully, like, I went 0 to 100. I lost, I lost like 40 pounds in 44 days, I think it was. So I mean, like, it's hard not to stay motivated when you're like every morning you hit the scale and it's like, oh, okay, another pound, another pound, another pound. You know what I mean? But I think the hardest part was, I would have to say probably it was like 3 weeks out of the show, of the Toronto show, not the Texas one. That was the first time I ever cheated on my diet.
Really?
Yeah, the first and only time I ever cheated on my diet, actually. I had 1 rice cake and 60 grams of chicken extra, and I felt like shit about it, so I walked on the treadmill for 2 hours.
Holy shit! Like for a cheat meal, that's very good, bro. For a cheat meal, how the fuck? That's very good. Like, how would you even feel?
That's 1 bite of chicken and like 1 rice cake.
Jesus, yeah, man. Holy shit. Well, when you
I
were
was
thinking
just so strict.
when you were thinking something so serious, I mean, I guess it takes a toll. But like, did you actually feel shit about that? Holy, they're like
horrible. Well, I made a YouTube video on it where I just like pretty much like cried in the camera for like 20 minutes.
So you never cheated on your dad before that? Like in the
No,
process?
I had never cheated before that. Like there was technically speaking, there was a day where I technically cheated, but it was completely out of my control. And that was we were in Mexico, and there was like I had meal planned everything was great, but then a Cat 4 hurricane came by in Puerto Vallarta, so like it knocked the roof off of our Airbnb, right? So like obviously all the power is gone, and I had to like scrounge my fridge to see what I could even eat that day. And that was the first time I ate bread in like 3 months.
Yeah. Interesting. So when did you decide to start using peptides? That's a interesting question.
That would be so. I filmed with Will Tennyson mid-January. No, it was pretty early January, mid-January, whatever. And then February, after the video got released, about like 2 days later, I had this company that wanted to have a call with me, Transcend, and they were like, on the phone call, it was like, we love what you're doing, we want you on the team. What do we have to do to get you? And I was like, all I need is your guys' help. And then we came up with a protocol, and that was it. But that was the first time I started using peptides documented. I had been using peptides for a while before, because like not as many, of course, but I was only using, like, I had used BPC 157 and TV 500 quite a bit to heal my elbows, because my elbows have been really shit for a very long time due to strongmen.
Transcend as a whole, their brand, I really like them. They're doing a great job, to be honest.
I love them. I will never leave them. As long as they will have me, I will be with them.
I wanted to ask you about something. And a lot of people, for some reason, scrutinize this. And I wanted to take your opinion on this. What do you think about Ozempic?
I think that the lack of understanding of Ozempic is what causes most people's frustrations about it. Now, there's a few different viewpoints that are like very valid that I've obviously read into because I talk about it a lot. Um, but I wouldn't just classify it as Ozempic, because personally I hate Ozempic. Like, it made me nauseous. I could work out on it. It just was not the drug for me. Tirzepatide, that I'm microdosing right now because of the secondary side effect of GLP-1s is the slowdown of your gastric motility. Right, so it slows down how fast you digest stuff, how fast your everything moves down there. For me, that is incredibly beneficial because I have Crohn's disease. So because I have Crohn's and everything's always going too fast, everything's always irritated, I'm not absorbing anything. I'm often causing ulcers due to the inflammation, and they start bleeding and they burst. I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
With tirzepatide, I haven't had to go to the hospital because it slows down the motility, so it stops the stress on my organs. I stop bleeding out my ass.
Yeah.
And again, I think that most of the stigmas, and I said this in the Just Eat News List video, most of the stigmas around peptides come from the route of administration. If I was taking all those pills, nobody would say anything. It's just because that it's injections, and people have really bad associations with injections that they then shit on it.
Yeah, people, as soon as they see a needle, they think that you're a fucking junkie or some shit.
Steroids or crack. Don't put that in the video.
But it's honestly just because people are not educated about that stuff, to be honest.
That's always what it is. It's just people are usually afraid of what they don't understand. And that's been proven time and time again with like religious issues, racial issues, cultural differences. It's always the exact same thing. People don't understand something, and because it's to them puts in jeopardy their way of living, people are scared of it. Now, there's another train of like conversation here around these drugs, and it's that people like if you see somebody that's really toned, that's really lean, that's really fit, people will generally associate that with like self-discipline, self-love, all this other stuff, right? Like the hard work that comes with being a muscular person. Now, I think that the people that are at that stage that have put in the work are then scared because of these drugs like Ozempic, and like we're like anybody's that they say obviously it wouldn't work like that, but that people can essentially achieve that same body without having put in all that work. Now, I understand why that would threaten someone, but if you really dig into it, if you really understand, and if you don't go through a stupid website to get your stuff, and you go through an actual medical professional that understands how to prescribe these GLP-1s, then a prescription will always come with the behavioral necessities to not become fat again once you get off. And that's the big difference.
So,
sorry, I talked to your ear off there.
Nah, it's fine, man. So, that was the Summer Shredding 2024. How was the prep for that, man? Because I must imagine like the last few couple of weeks before that must have been tough. So what was that like?
It's funny because people kept always saying like, "Oh, I've been on prep for 16 weeks." Like all the bodybuilders and the physique athletes and the guys that actually do it continuously. "Oh, I've been on prep for 16 weeks. It was such a long 20-week prep." It's like, bro, I've been prepping for 75 weeks. Like, you know? It's like the reason why I think I was so successful in the prep, in summer shredding, and everything else is because I saw every day as a day of prep. I didn't leave myself to have a lot of room for mistake. Every single day, first thing I thought about was, okay, I'm summer shredding. Okay, bodybuilding show. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Like after making that claim online, you're kind of fucked. You don't have a choice. You have to do it. You know what I mean? So I treated every day as if it was like one step forward towards the show, and not definitely not a marathon, not a sprint, but a semi-fast-paced jog. You know?
How was I want to ask this question? The night before summer shredding, literally, you're in bed and you know that tomorrow you're gonna be on the stage. What do you feel that night before that?
Oh God. Well, that's a good
one. Did you even sleep that night?
Both shows were very different from each other. Actually both shows I slept well actually before Toronto, not before Texas. Toronto was easier because it was me and my videographer, and there was no real stress around anything. Like not as much stress in terms of like like I'm with my videographer, so it's not like like it's somebody that I'm like family close to essentially. And it's like I kind of accepted that like whatever happens, and there's nothing I can do right now that's gonna change it. So fuck it. But before Texas, that was a different one. That was crazy. I think I slept maybe an hour, like if that. It was just like I was because like we obviously the prep for that was a lot more intense. It was a lot more like instructive. So I had no water for like 7 hours before going to bed that night. So I was dehydrated. I could like feel like my lips chapping just from like breathing. Like it was so between that and between the fact that obviously it was like the culmination, there was no sleep after that night. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you did see the video that Greg Doucette made on you.
Of course.
What do you think about that?
It's funny. So I was on the treadmill. It was like 5 in the morning or something like that. Like it was super fucking early. And I got a text from Will Tennyson, and all he says was "bro," and then it says a picture of the screenshot of his screen with the thumbnail with like the Greg Doucette. And I fucking like I dropped my phone while I was walking on the treadmill because like if you follow my content for a while, you know that I was really trying to get a Greg Doucette video.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, it just happened. And of course, Greg has been like going downhill in this like in terms of like really like hounding on people.
Yeah.
So I was expecting it to be like incredibly crazy, especially since he went for the second Will Tennyson video, which, as we know, got a lot of hate.
Yeah.
So you put all these things together, and like I was so excited, and when I watched the video, I was even like more. I was like, "What? He's nice to me." Like, of course, he was tearing apart some of the things which were expected, like some of the more glamorized aspects, like the Jello and like the 9 and that kind of stuff. But he was like very supportive of the weight loss in itself. Now, my question to him is, I wonder if he remembered who I was because I had met him earlier that year at the Olympias and said, "Hey, I'm losing all this weight." Right?
Do you think he remembers you? I mean, you're pretty unrecognizable from then. Like, I don't know if he remembered you.
I mean, I'm gonna see him probably in like 3 weeks, so I'll ask him then.
So, speaking of Will Tennyson, I wanted to ask you, what was it like? When did you meet Will Tennyson for the first time and Jesse James West? You met both of these guys who are like when you start going to the gym, these are like the Greg Doucette, Will, Jesse James West, and maybe Alex Eubank or Sebum. These are the guys that you admire. These are the guys that you watch.
Yeah.
What was it like meeting these two guys?
It was incredible. Okay, so the one thing I have at a bit of an advantage of here is the fact that I was DJing for a long time before, so I've been around a lot of famous people. Like I've been around like the Tiestos and like the Steve Aoki's and like all the very like mainstream media famous people. Right. So that was a little bit different. Meeting these guys I'm really not that awkward socially. So it was very okay meeting them. It was very normal. It was just we just started a conversation right away. And of course, since we were there with like a very specific mission and intent, which was shooting the video, that obviously led the conversation. So honestly, meeting them was fine. It was just like me. Like it was nothing different than like you and I talking right now. It was just meeting these normal people, and especially once you get to be around these type of people, you realize that like there's nothing special about them, right? It's just they have a set skill set that separates them from the general mass, and that skill set represents marketing. It represents obviously like filmography. It represents all like marketing and branding. But at the end of the day, they're just like you and I. They're very normal people, and I very much intend on getting there in a few years by being the same person that I am today on camera with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but like your journey as a whole, man, like it's fucking admirable. So I do absolutely think that more and more people will find you, more and more people will resonate with your message. I wanted to ask you because I was curious about this. Where did the name Goliath come from?
That came from my DJing days. If you scroll way down on my Instagram, you'll see it, or on my Facebook or something. But it was like my old name used to be T-Rex, back in college. Like that was my DJ name because I have like these big ass legs. I've always had big legs, and I have short arms. Right?
Yeah.
So people would just call me T-Rex. And then eventually, I figured out that there was another big DJ that was named T-Rex, and I changed over to Goliath. I literally just asked in my Facebook, "Hey guys, looking for a new name. What should I call it?" So he's like Goliath. I was like, "Sick." That was it.
Yeah, interesting. I want to ask you in terms of, some people say that it's more important diet than training. Some people train in diet. I want to ask you, what percentage do you think makes diet and training? Like, which percentages would you say if you had to just pick out these two things? Like, is it 50% diet, 30% training, or different?
I have two school of thoughts on this. If you, as a blanket statement, I would say diet over everything. The reason why, because I don't find I train very efficiently whatsoever. Yet I was still able to achieve an incredible physique. So that would be, I would attribute that to the fact that my diet was perfect, my hydration was perfect, my training was crap, but my cardio was perfect. So like 3 out of the 4 pillars were hit very perfectly. But the other school of thought on this is when it comes to weight loss, I would say whichever one you hate the most is the most important.
Oh yeah. Right.
And not necessarily just because of like that's the one that's going to be struggling to get through the most, but it's just when you go through any sort of weight loss or any sort of like drastic life change, it's very obvious that you need to address your laziness, right? You need to address like you need to get good, or you need to learn to love the things that you don't so much like, the things that need to be addressed. So if you hate working out, then going to the gym is probably going to be your biggest step, because that's what you're, because once you learn how to do shit you don't like, you evolve as a person. It is that simple.
Yeah. That's a good answer, to be honest.
Thank you.
So speaking of that, there are two contrary diets that some people preach, either one of these, and to be honest, I don't think that these like apply to everyone, but I do feel like they have maybe their uses for some people. Although, okay, I'm just gonna say it: vegan and carnivore diet, right? And I personally never was a fan of vegan diet. I'd take carnivore any day, but I want to ask you, what do you think about the vegan and the carnivore, these two? What do you think about these? Because they're the contrary opposites.
I think that for the general mass of people, both those diets are completely idiotic. Now, there's a reason for it. Any ultra restrictive diet will always fail. It is that simple. It is not sustainable. That's one. Vegan is, I mean, how many stories of like mothers and like babies that are malnutritioned and even die because their mothers were vegans do we have to go through before we realize that the diet is not sustainable, right? Like, or carnivore. How many people are we going to have to wait and see that their arteries are clogging, their cholesterols are through the roof because they're eating all of this saturated fat throughout the meats? Right? Like, there's no winning to any ultra restrictive diet. Now, that being said, let's back up a little bit. The fact that these are ultra restrictive diets can be incredibly good staple points for people. And what I mean by that is if they have to do any sort of eliminating style diets. So like when I got diagnosed with Crohn's, I had to do an eliminating style diet to figure out what would irritate my Crohn's. And the only way to do that is by only having very few items that you can eat regularly, and then introducing one at a time, seeing how you react to it, and then is it okay? Is it not? Okay, next. And next and next. So if you start carnivore, if you start vegan for like a week, sick, and then start introducing things to sort of reintegrate you into real life, and then figure out what your body likes, what it doesn't like. That's when like then that can become that's you forming your own diet. But like sticking to a purely carnivore diet will most likely result in you like having elevated cholesterol. Sticking to an only vegan diet will increase your rate of like, you know, vitamin or electrolyte deficiencies or protein for a lot of people that struggle to eat protein as a vegan.
Yeah. You know, there was this one guy, and I don't know if you know him, Dr. Anthony Chaffee. He has like 200 something thousand subscribers, something like that. He was on the carnivore diet for about 6 years or maybe 7 years, and only beef. He didn't even eat chicken or pork, only beef for like 6 or 7 years. Like, he didn't even eat like vegetables, like fruits, like anything else. And that's crazy to me. Like, how that guy can last so many years eating only beef, and he seems like perfectly healthy, to be honest. At 49, he looks like 30, which is kind of like strange, but it's like this again shows that it works on some people. Again, like he studied his body, and it works for him. But again, he didn't preach this onto anyone. He said that whoever like wants to and is ready and actually knows that his body can handle it, right? Because it doesn't work for everybody. And I feel like I hate it when people try to say everybody should do this or everybody should do that, you know? And it's like, dude, like some people have some, you know, some medical situations that don't allow them to do this or that. I'm trying to give an example, but I can't right now. But it's like, you know, like somebody trying to preach something that would apply to everybody, you know?
Exactly, and I think that, like, first of all, from what you said, looking healthy, being healthy are two completely different things, right? Like, Buddy could look amazing and could have crazy high cholesterol, you know what I mean? Or he could have plaque collecting in his arteries, and like, but he looks great, you know. So, I mean, sick. That's one thing, but two, it's like, yes, of course, certain extremes will work for certain people. I am the fucking picture of that. How many people do you know could go to the gym 3 times a day, every single day? How many people do you know could do like hours of cardio every single day on like 1,500 to 2,000 calorie deficit?
Holy shit!
Not many people, but it worked for me. It worked for me, and it worked fine, right? Now, and that's why, like, I've learned very quickly that it's not for everybody, nor is anything else in this world. There is no answer, like one size fits all answer to weight loss. It's just what works for you, what you like doing, and keep fucking doing it.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's funny that you asked that. I just recorded like maybe 10 minutes ago a video on what I was going to do next. I'm going to the easiest way to describe this is I'm going to become the Batman of the fat loss industry.
I
what I mean by that is I'm going to start exposing people that leave shitty comments in people's fat loss sections that are just trying to better themselves and that are being assholes, and I'm going to call them out, and I'm not going to go easy on them.
I like that, to be honest. That's honestly a good idea.
My comment section was so filled with like for a lot of that. I don't think we can. It's very obvious that it's a lot of that too. But to me, it bothered me a little bit at first, but not anymore. I don't care what some basement troll has to say about me. But it can deter somebody from continuing with their journey, and that's just messed up to me.
Yeah, your comment section was crazy. Like, I went through that. I'm like, how can people like hate on this guy? Like, what the fuck? Like, it doesn't make sense.
There's 3 things. People don't realize that it's another human on the end of that video. You know, like people have trouble seeing past their own lives. And then 2, it's incredibly easy for somebody to project their insecurities onto something that they don't believe is possible when they haven't believed in themselves enough to try.
Yeah, that does make sense. So, where can people find you, man?
YouTube, it's Simon Goliath Lafontant. On Instagram, it's Goliath_GG. I need to like just fucking consolidate everything into one. But it's always through Goliath, but it'll be YouTube, Instagram are the biggest platforms. I'm trying to start Snapchat. I really don't like it that much, I'll be honest with you. But for anybody that is like looking for a community, that would be the 1 million pound club. We are already over 6,000 pounds burnt in like a month and a half, I think, of the club existing. And that's just been absolutely amazing. And on top of that, I'm also launching a coaching app, I believe, in 3 weeks. So that'll be the biggest. That's the biggest. What's next for me, right there.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, man. Exciting stuff. Gotta love to see you in, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for watching till the end. With this in mind, God bless you, and I'll see you all on the next one. Whatever. Oh shit. Yeah, bro, dude, what the fuck? That's my whole head in there. Okay, so guys, the reason why this interview was so short was because Simon was busy, which makes sense. The dude is doing like 50 different things. But with this in mind, we did speak after a podcast, and it is possible that we'll do a second episode towards the beginning of March. We'll see exactly. I'll announce that on my Instagram, so you may as well follow me on Instagram if you want to know about that, or just follow Simon on Instagram, or follow us both, up to you. And with this in mind, I will be updating y'all about that first one, about that second episode, sometime around the end of February anyways. So, yeah, with this in mind, there will be probably another half an hour to an hour long episode of this. So stay tuned. Maybe subscribe if you want to be announced about that. And with this in mind, I'll see you all on the next one.